happening, but I do notice that when I kind of run my code from scratch, I do get a little bit of a timing issue down here. So I'm actually just going to stop it, clear it, and rerun it. Not sure why exactly that happens. So if I just try to hit enter and trigger a test run, it doesn't pick up on my tests. But when I hit A, it's triggering something, but for some reason it doesn't actually trigger the test suite. So that'll be something I have to look into maybe a little bit later. But for right now, I think actually I'm gonna hit Q. If I hit Q, oh, I see. So it just exited out of the watch mode. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go down in here and go right back to our test, and I'm just gonna create a new file in this directory, and this is gonna be our post.test.js, and we're just gonna continue from here. Again, oh, here we go. So now our test failed, and it's because it doesn't exist yet, so that's fine. And it seems like it's only picking up this test suite. So what I want to do is I think one thing that I need to do is tell this environment where our tests are located. So I'm just going to take a second and go to the just documentation and look into that. And what you saw here is my YouTube channel. So if you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do that. I will be changing my background and all of that stuff a little bit later, but trying to stay focused on the task at hand. So in here we have our ingest. We have that set up, running from the command line. What is this? Here's how to run jest files on files matching my test using config JSON as a configuration file. So that's not exactly what we're looking for. What we're looking for is we already set up our environment. Um, and this is for TypeScript. We're not using TypeScript for this. So I'm just gonna go down to the config. Should be over here somewhere. Configuring jest. And what I want to do is just try to find anything that'll tell me about the file directory, maybe. Kind of guessing on this, so just um, give me a second to digest this. Display name, error undepreciated, globals, global setup, global teardown, module file extensions, module paths. Let's check this out. And what else do I want to see? I want to see test environment. I think we already have that set, but I'm gonna grab that too. Test runner, let me grab that. And what about test URL? So let's check those out. So let's start with the module paths. An alternative API to setting the node path. I don't think we need this one. Um, just use node markers to display desktop notification. The Windows it creates a new start menu entry on the first use and not display notification. Okay, I think we're good with that. Test environment. We already have this set actually, so I think we can go ahead and ignore this one as well. Const. Yeah. Let's go test runner. This option allows us to use the custom test runner. Alright, we already have we can use the default, we don't worry about that. This option sets the URL, and we're not even using the JS DOM environment, so I guess we can skip that as well. So it seems like we don't have any additional config to do. Um, I'm not sure why exactly it does this, to be honest. Because I know you guys probably noticed it on the last time I did this as well. We had some issues with the test kind of starting up. I don't know why that happens. So the only thing I can think of is to go and say, um, actually let me just go here. So I'm just gonna copy that error message that we get, and just see what happened. Oh, I think it's because we're not changing any of the files, so it's not running any of the tests. So yeah, I'm not sure because this is running the user tests right here, and it's just taking time. So I'll let it keep running since we're not losing anything from that. And I'm just gonna go ahead and open up our. I'm gonna open up the post model, and then I'm gonna open up the post router. So in this post router, we're going to. I just want to look at and see what we're using in here, so that way when I go and do my test for the post, we'll have it. And another thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and grab this before each. Actually, no, I'm going to grab all of this here and I'm going to create it, add it in a new file. So I'm just going to do setup.js. And what this is going to do is this is all the setup stuff that I need for my code. So I'm going to grab this user test and I'm going to grab all of this stuff here and I'm going to move this over into setup.js and I'm going to export this information. Export, well, module dot exports equals, and we're going to export this user one. Actually, I need to do this as an object, so we're going to export. So I'm sorry. User one. User one ID, and then we're going to export user 2, and we're going to export user 2 ID. And we're going to make this stuff publicly available to the, and this makes it available to the rest of our code. So if I go in here and instead of doing this, it'll be, actually I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to grab this right here, and this is kind of I'm going to use a bit of a, I forget what the technical name for this is, but it's a special notation that's going to allow us to make these references to all of these variables that we're using and be able to call them directly without having to do any further manipulation. And so since all of this stuff is exported from this file, we're just making it explicit that that's what we want, and then we're going to say, hey, we're going to require this information as well. And we just have to put dot slash, and it should be, actually maybe, oh, it's not saved yet, so let me do save it, and then I'll do a dot slash, for some reason it doesn't want to save, so I'm going to save it first, then I'll do a dot slash, and that should make it appear. It is really not liking it, so I'm just going to do dot slash setup .js since we know it exists, and I don't think I have to do the .js. I should be able to just do dot slash setup, save that, and I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to hit CLS, and then I'll rerun our test environment since we did have some changes since our last commit. And as you can see, we're already having our issue here. So post test I'm expecting to fail, and the user test is failing because it can't find our setup. So let me go ahead and figure out what's going on there. So if I do dot slash, I wonder if it put this under yeah, it did. So I need to get this out under the test directory. There we go. That's why I didn't show up before. So dot slash, and there we go, setup. So if I save that, so let's see, what else do we need? In this user one here, I need to make this to be the user one that we've grabbed from here, which I thought would have worked. And actually, Mongoose is not defined. And I think that's actually because of what's happening over here. So I think I can actually take this Mongoose import and put this into this here. What else are we taking? I don't think so I think that's it. JWT has to also be copied, and I don't think I can take it out because, oh, yes I can, because all of the references are in the other file. So this actually saves us a bit of space, a little bit of bulkiness in our test code. So we're expecting we're expecting post to fail because there's no test in there. But our user tests are taking a little bit too long to run. So if it takes a long time again, I'm going to look up that error we were seeing and try to figure out what's going on there. Just tests, just cannot test suite. So let's look and see what's going on here. If we have run, as soon as I remove it, Watchman. I don't think I have anything called Watchman installed. Let me hit Control C on this thing because this is very odd. Because we know for a fact I haven't changed anything since the last time we ran our code in last week's setup. So for us to have these issues now is very odd. Let me just clean this up. Because if I run this, well, actually, let me see what happens if I change it from watch to watch all. Let me see. And let's go into documentation and look at the difference. What's this down here? Watch files for changes and rerun tests related to change files. If you want to rerun all tests when a file has changed, use the watch all. So let's go ahead and try watch all. If I can find our test, actually I need to go to package.json, and in over here we're gonna add in watch all. And then rerun our tests. And it's fine that our first test suite fails. We're actually expecting that. So we know we have another problem if post was working or showing some kind of thing. Let's see. Let's say just test suite taking too long to run. If I put an F on here, so this F, if I put F describe here, it should force our code to only run this particular test. So if this doesn't work, then I'll know we have a deeper issue. So I'm telling this thing here to say, hey, run this specific test. I thought F describe would work. What about fit test? Oh, I'm sorry, this is the wrong language. Let me go to this test suite, not running. And I'm just trying to get a clearer printout to see what exactly is going on. So we understand this one. This one should not be running. Your test suite must contain at least one test. And then when it gets down to user, it just doesn't want to work. So let's see if us adding in the other test suite is causing any issues. So we're just going to grab this. And I'm going to set it up like we're setting up our first test. And I'm just going to leave it blank. So I'm going to remove all this stuff going on in here. And we're just going to leave it empty. Copy this because we need to close out our describe. And it should just be /post. And then we'll save both of these. And here we go. Now we're getting something interesting. We're getting our seems like the user test passed. Oh no, let's see, it's running the user test and it's just taking too long. But now it's saying it has estimated time to run. So I don't know what to think about that, because usually these tests run in about 6 seconds. But let's give it a try. We'll see what happens. So if it goes longer than 42 seconds, we have a problem. So right there, we know our test is running. I wonder if it's because of the way I have this stuff set up in here now. I feel like it was going to do this stuff before, but all I'm going to do is just send it back to how it was before we started making changes and save it and see what happens. And we're off. Because I haven't made any changes since Friday. So I wonder what will cause it to not run now. Yeah, so something going on here. Let me look at these tests. So we have everything back here as it originally was. So nothing crazy going on there. Let's check all the way down to the bottom, make sure we're ending all of our stuff. So yeah, all of our stuff is ending how it's supposed to be. So our syntax is correct. Describe, yep. So now I'm wondering, just tests suite running forever. Let's try this. Every time I'm running just, it never runs everything. Let's see any answers. This happens to me, but it's intermittent. I've discovered that I work around choosing run in ban flag. So if I go and use this, I think that's what happened actually. When I took that stuff off, I had a problem. So there might be a problem with the way I'm running these tests. Only one way to find out. Wait, where's that? And if we run all tests, so we hit A. And that should run the tests here, but I don't even see the timer now. Yeah, so we run into a bit of a problem here. Not sure how to. exactly how to handle this one. Test suites. So at this point, it's only doing the new stuff that was added since our last commit. When we did our commit last week, seems it accepted those tests and it's kind of looking past those. Watch usage. There's more to be done here. Oh wait, here we go. Over here, it seems like our test failed. So here's one of our problems. So now let me go back to the user test and pull out that F describe. I thought I already had to check it out. Yeah, I did. Yeah, so this is our problem here. Let's see. So just not running all tests after commit. So let me take off the watch mode and see what happens. So I'm actually gonna have this just run jest. I just want to see how it reacts. If it will react differently. So it should execute all the tests once and then stop. So if it's hanging up on our user test, then something's going wrong in there that I can't pinpoint because I'm not getting any error logs. Hmm. So npm test A. Yeah, the test is running for 60 seconds. I'm gonna let it run because I really don't know what else is going on there because I haven't made any changes and I know for a fact that these tests are good and they work. Um, the only thing I can think of is that when we had our watch on there, it seems like if you once you commit, it looks at your test a little differently. So let me look at this path to test thing. And that's actually different than, okay. Using with MongoDB. I don't really think this is a problem. You just require it. Just MongoDB provides all required configuration to run your tests with MongoDB. Actually, I think that might have been a problem before. By not having MongoDB up. I think it's like it's hung up because it can't create that connection. And it should be Robo3T that we have open. Even though I do recall doing this without having that. but since I don't have a better workaround, I'm just gonna try this. We are. Oh, okay. So this might be the culprit here. Our Mongo DB is running into some problems. I'm not really too sure what's going on with that install, because if I uninstall something else, it works fine. So let's just go ahead and look at this temporary fix. So let's go to the control panel, and we're going to click on programs. Then we're going to go click on that again. Let's go to check this out. So let's go down to our Mongo DB and we hit repair. And now I'm considering if I even need to have this installed. I probably do though, because I think that's how Robo3T works, based on that. So we're gonna just go ahead and repair our MongoDB, which could be the culprit in these problems we've been seeing. Because it's like, if you're having a problem with your database and it can't connect, then the test will never be able to run because it can't connect. So I think that finished. So now let's go back and try to run these tests. First test done. And there we go. Yep, so that was it. So the next time this happens, I'll go ahead and take a look at that. And it seems like something else is happening at the end. So I'm just going to Control-Shift-C on that and dig into that really quick before we get started, just so we don't have any other pop-up issues. So a worker process has failed to exit gracefully and has been forced to exit. So I'm just gonna grab that there, because I think the rest of those keywords are screwing things up. So I'm seeing this error, but I don't really see anything happening on my terminal. What you did, just okay. Oh, so I guess this is supposed to tell me if I have any leaks. So let's go ahead and do this again and throw this up in the, and then we're gonna put this in here. So now we have what we used to have initially, and now our test should keep running. So it should just run post, and then it's going to stop because all the other tests were good since we committed. So now that we're running this, I just want to see if it tells me about any leaks as it was saying before. Let's see what other options they give us. Press enter, order on test related to file changes. See, I didn't get any things about leaks this time. So I'm just going to hit enter again and see if it gives me anything. Yeah, I don't see any issues with a leak here. A worker process has failed to exit gracefully and has been forced to exit. This is likely caused by leaks used due to improper teardown. I think what that means is I forgot to do something in maybe after tests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do I'm going to go back to my Udemy course. And the reason being is because he does mention some stuff about the teardown that I don't think I actually implemented. So here is the setup. And this is the just setup and tear down. So
in the last,
that's what I missed in the tear down.
Actually use super test to
So
about the
think I have to worry about any of that. I just want to see the teardown.
This is not my
So let's go to see
door open for other test users later on. I'll go ahead and use any, then roll.
So I'm not seeing anything here where there's like a disconnect or something like that, which might be the problem. Let's see.
Having to write a whole bunch of code, things like testing, have a test suite.
And our setup, well, here, before each is async. I'm gonna go back to using this with MongoDB, and the reason why I want to do that is because I want to see what happens if we do tear down. So this is set up, take down. Oh, we have to stop our MongoDB. So let's see, Mongoose tear down. So let's go to jest, and we're gonna look for after tests. So let's go to after. Runs a function after all the tests have been completed. So we want that after all. So that's what we need here. So we need to say, I'm going to go up here, and I'm just going to throw in an after all, and we're going to make this an async process, async function, and then we're going to go and, add our thing here. And I want to do something to stop the Mongoose connection. I believe that should be it. So I'm just going to do mongoose dot disconnect, and then see what happens when we do this. And I'm actually going to go back and pull out these extra options here and see how that affects the code. And now we don't get that message. So I think that's what it was. It was just that we didn't break our connection to the database, and that was why they had to forcefully stop it. So look at that. We're not getting that yellow printout message as we were before. Now, if I was to remove it, and we can also double check that. We can say, all right, what happened? Let's go ahead and comment that out, rerun it, and see what happens. And we definitely get it now. So now we know that's what it was. Okay, cool. So now we're back to where we were. And then, yep, see, look at this. Perfect. Still want to clear up the screen though. I don't like, I don't know what I hit. I'm gonna hit Control C, CLS. I just like to have a fresh terminal. And now that we have all that stuff over in the setup, we have to import that stuff. So now I can just go ahead and remove all of this, and then I can say const, and we're just gonna grab all the exports that we pushed out from our exports in the setup.js file, and we're just gonna put that over here. And I want to have everything kind of written out, just because setting up on multiple lines looks a little weird. I forgot my U. And then we're just gonna put that equals require, and then we're gonna drop in our reference here. It's gonna be /setup and save. And let's see if our tests are screwed up here. Yep, there we go. We're still good to go here. And we're gonna go ahead and knock out JWT, and we're gonna keep Mongoose here because we need it. and we can still have everything written exactly how we did before. Another way to do this would have been to say, instead of having this, we might have taken another script and done all of that directly. As you may see, where is this? Here. I think it goes here. So the setup
Fixtures
is taking all
right
that
here.
stuff.
Request right
and
here it is.
moving that
We
in
have
there.
10 passing tests, and they all by first deleting math.task. .test task-related endpoints. We'll have to on a mongoose variable. Then down
See
below, I'll
here,
load
we
in
have a
the
mongoose
JWT library.
And then
By using, just take these two lines, I can cut that point. We have this new file,
see.
and it's
And then this is kind of what he's using here to set up the database. I kind of like the way I have things set up right now. So you can just set up your before each and put your functions directly in there. As of right now, I'll leave it.
if we let them, we can fix this with
And that's really all that needs to be done right here. I mean, you can code your own way. If you want to have something else in here, you can do that. But I'm just going to leave this the way it is right now because I like having the flexibility within, different tests. So, I didn't want to take out user. I just wanted to take out JWT. So that's good. And I like to separate that a bit because this isn't a library. This is kind of something that I did myself. So I want to keep that stuff separated. That was actually, in that case, I should do it like this. Stuff that I created locally, well, myself, I should say, should be written like this. And then all the other stuff should be up top. And then save that. It should rerun all the tests and we'll be fine. So now that we have everything back working like how it should, we're going to go ahead and get ready to do our I can actually delete this too. So now that we have this set up, let's go ahead and get our posts. And I'm just going to split the screen so that, I didn't mean to do that. I want a post over here, and then I want this over there, so I can split this left. I can close package.json. Might keep user test open, but I'll close it for now. I'll keep setup open as well. So here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the router. I'll close it over there. And on the router, the first thing we have is our post. So let's go and do that. It should create a new post. And here we have the image, right? So since we're going to send an image, we're going to go down in here and we're going to create a new folder and we call this fixtures. And this just holds like I'm going to say any kind of additional data that you need for your tests is going to go into this fixtures directory. So that's why we created that. And the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an image that we're going to use for our tests, and that test is going to go into the fixtures directory, so that way we can have that image. If I can find one that, there we go. So, those images are my downloads. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to grab one of this. I'm going to grab this one, and I want this to go into fixtures, so that's where I'm going to place it. And now that it's there, so now when I run my tests, I'll know that that image is always there. And what's going to happen is we're going to say should create a new post, right? So that's our first test. Before I do that, we have to import our app. So let's go ahead and get that going. So let's get our app, and we need to import our setup. So we say const, and I'm just going to grab all of this stuff over here. I guess the easy way for this to be done would be to take what we had in our, so let's go to our user test, right? And we can take all of, let's see here. We can take this user 1 and user 2 setup, and Actually, no. I'm gonna leave these exactly the way it is. And I was gonna make these a new script, but I'm just gonna copy it because it makes things easier for me for what I'm trying to do in these tests. And so now that we have our const here, I need to pull in our user 1, user 2, get all that stuff going. And then I also need to pull in our user model. Actually, I need to pull in our post model. Need to sip here. I need to pull in post. And now we have our reference to our post, and that's what we're going to do here. So before we start anything, we're going to clean up our posts. And as of right now, I don't believe I need to set up anything, but I'm going to keep these users in here because actually I need to keep that in there because we actually do need to make sure that we have some users created so that when we do create a post, we can access it. Also, I'm going to have to create a post because when we go to do some other things in here, for instance, make sure we don't create a post that already exists, or creating or trying to get doing authentication on getting posts, we need to make sure we have some data already in our database. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. So what I'm going to do is same as before in setup. I'm just going to go ahead and grab that. Well, it's not going to be the same because it's different, of course, because we're using post data and not user data. So we're going to do const. Just say post 1 equals new post, and then let's just give it all the data it needs. So this is going to be the title, and I have too many equal signs here. So the title is going to be test, first test post, right? Test post, comma, the category is going to be test, the cover image and actually cover image will be added separately. Content is just going to be this. I didn't think about this until just now. I'm just going to open Postman and I'll be able to grab that test data from there, so I won't have to type all this out. It takes a little longer to load Postman up, but it'll save me typing, because I might want to add 2 posts. So now we go ahead and look for create post. Let's grab this body here, and I'm just going to do bulk edit so I can just grab all this stuff. And as you can see, I don't even have to add much information. And then I'm just going to add the quotes on here. And then I'll have to go back and add the commas. And there we go. So then now all we need is commas. Boom. So that's good to go. And you'll see in a second how we're going to set up our images. There we go. And then we're going to do not save. So now we have our post in here. So then we're going to create a new post. And I'm actually just going to grab this data, and I'll be able to what's the word I'm looking for? I'll be able to create my first test. So in order to do that, we need to import super test. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to require super test, and that's how we're going to get everything going. So we're going to kick this off. We're going to do const. I don't think I need to check the response object. Yeah, we're sending the post back, so I might need to, but that's fine. We're going to go const response equals await request, and then we're going to use our app in here, and we're going to do dot in this case just dot post, and then we have to pass in the extension that we're going to, so it's going to be slash posts plural, and then we're going to do a dot, and then now we have to send what we're sending, and in the send I don't need to, I do need to be authorized, and that's why we're using our users that are in here. So we need to set our authentication. So let me go, and actually I want to grab one more extension. I want to grab a Lint extension, and I believe this is also for cleaning up some stuff. So integrates ESLint. If I can find a second to show you what it does. But let me see if I can see some examples in here. But yeah, I think this is the extension reorganizing your code. So right now we have our code look nice, so that way we can instantly see errors and things like that. But ESLint is more of a formatting thing. So what this does is, let's see, on new folders you might have to create, I wish it told us what it does. Formatter support. So there we go. And then I don't really see what it is, but it's worth checking it out. So let me see if they have like a link to the website or something. Yeah, let's go Google Chrome. And we're always going to use Google Chrome. We do not work with Windows Explorer. I mean Internet Explorer. It's disgusting. Say yes. Let's just look it up and see what it is, right? ESLint. ESLint statically analyzes your code to quickly find problems. Oh yeah, so fixes issues and things like that. I thought there was something else in here, but I'm just gonna grab it because yeah, so it finds your patterns, I guess. I was really looking for formatting though. Maybe that's prettier formatter. So yeah, prettier does formatting as well, I guess. We've already seen a bit of that. There's some options though. So we can do things like tabs, we can have semicolons, quotes, and this does all of the additional stuff that we like, right? So I guess that was wasting my time with that. I'm gonna get ESLint now, just because I just want to have it for later, because it is something that most people use. Prettier ESLint. Now that sounds like something that does the best of both worlds. A Visual Studio extension to format JavaScript code using the prettier ESLint format. All right, so I'll stop there. I don't want to go too deep off the rails here while we're in the middle of a test. So we're going to do, I think it's authentication, right? And then we need to do a, let's see here. How do we do that on our user test? I'm trying to figure out how we got the authentic, the ID. Okay, so we just did. So here we go. This is what I want. So we do. I can take this out. I should really just Control V it. And then we have. Oh, I wanted to keep that dot with this. So I wish I had something for this, right? But I'll take it back. We'll go one in just so we know that we want a line in for these dots. And I think this will work. So I'm just gonna leave it like that, and then I'll do dot send. And as I've seen, I don't think I actually have to send this, but I'm just doing it for consistency. And then now we have to do dot expect, and this is where we're gonna get our 400. I mean our 201. But in between here, I believe there's another way we have to use to get our image in here. There's another way. I mean, I'm sure there's a way I can Google this and find it, but I already see that in my course that's already done, so I'm just gonna go ahead and check there. So let's go up, not here. I need to go into tests and figure out where he has his images going in.
All we need to do is populate database to an object, and I'll be pounds much. Now from here, we'll start by going ahead and setting up the I'll use, then the assertion to on what I'm worried about fail.
Here we go.
I can remove the.
So I'm looking for a way to pass in my image because it takes in that third party. So I think what I might be able to do is say with my set, if we look in Postman, right? Postman's on the other screen. So if I look at Postman here, and I look at the body, if I take out this key value edit and I look down here at cover image, we see that we have a file that we uploaded. And I think this is kind of like a shortcut. So I think what I can do is I can go down up here actually, and then for the cover image, I should be able to do the use a string for its location. You'll see in a second what I mean. I could be wrong. Actually, let me do just Molter. Here we go. So let's see. Oh, we can do dot attach, and there we go. And then we just have to say where it is. So we'll do. So I don't have to do this. So we'll do dot attach, and on that we'll pass in the so now I'm just going to check the super test documentation. And then in the super test documentation, I'm just going to look up that and see what the options are. So I'm going to do dot attach. And there we are. So we can just type in the string for what we're attaching. So it would just be, in this case, we're just doing one file. So I can just say cover image as a string. And then the name of the location, so it's in this test location. So I should just be able to go. Let's see what happens if I go test slash fixtures slash this. Control C. Control V. And do I need the file extension with that? Yes, I do. .jpeg. I think there's a way I can actually convert the file extension, but I'll leave it like this for now just to test everything, and then make those changes as more information becomes more concrete. So now we're gonna let these things run. There we go. And now we have this test suite that is failing. And again, the reason why we're getting that message is because we did not disconnect from the database. So it's like a leak. It's like the code stopped, you exit it, but you never disconnect it from the database. And let me go ahead and pull in Mongoose. And I'm actually going to leave all of the code like it is right now, even with the stuff grayed out that I'm not using, because if I don't use it now, I'll clean it up, and then it'll help me clean up and rewrite our setup file over here. Let's see, what else do we need? So let's try this. Actually, wait, why did it fail? So we got a 401 not authorized. And the only reason why I can think of us not being authorized if this user did not save. So let's save it, run it. I still feel like we're going to run into the same error. So we're not authorized right now. Wonder why that is. I'm almost certain it's because of the way I have user 1 imported here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment this out, and I just want to see if I do have access to user 1 in the way that I think I do. It should print out the object with all the information that I was anticipating. Only one way to find that out. What is this here? Yeah, so here we go. Console log, we do have all of the information I was looking for. And then there is I never called in the user model. So I'm creating users, but I never called in the user model. So this is one of the things that I'll say, okay, so this is more than likely going to be something that I will want to simplify, meaning I don't want to write this out in multiple locations. So I don't want to have to write out the code for creating the user, setting it up, and all of that. So I would probably have a script that does that for me. What's failing now? So let's go ahead and clear up this terminal. Oh, that didn't work. Just CLS, clear it up. Actually, I'm going to delete it and then do it, just to make sure we have it fresh. So now we're going to do npm run test. And you don't necessarily have to use a terminal here. You can use a terminal. You can use your computer's terminal itself. It's the same thing. It's just a little bit more convenient to do it here, which is why I'm doing it. Up here is showing while our stuff failed. So it's saying we can't access request. And oh, I see. We forgot to put our sync flag here. Still failing, but it should be a little bit different. So we're trying to import a file after the environment has been tore down. That's interesting. So let's dig in to this. What I'm thinking with this is, since we're seeing this buffer stuff in here, I'm thinking that it's this attach. So let's go back to the documentation and figure out where we actually have to put it. Oh, I see. So if we use attach, we have to do something else. So for instance here, they sent off this, they set their, this is part of their HTML, HTTP request. I don't like looking at that. Let me look here. So when they did the post, they added the field here. That's not what we're looking for. Let me see if, Control F attach. Seems like this is the best one to get in terms of documentation. Let's go over to their GitHub page and check the documentation there, and do the same thing. Search for attach. So you go here into the test. Let's look at fixtures. What's this here? Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. We're looking for, well, this is the readme we have here, so I guess this is the best we're gonna get. When we attach it, it is after we put in our request. So I think that part is fine. I'm just trying to figure out why they had this field here. Multi-part file uploads. So right here, it's having a problem with our call to our user database. And we're also having problems with, actually, let me do this. Let me do await post.delete many, just to make sure our post route is clear as well every time we run our tests. And then this is where we put in our user. This will put in our test. I mean our post, I'm sorry. So we're still failing. So let's check what's happening here. So I'm just gonna do just Control V. I have a component. That's not what I'm looking for. I thought this part here would have done it, because this is what we have going on here. But I did see in when you look over here, this was done a little bit
Problem. I can then take this line and paste to you.
So let's see what's really going on.
Now that we're going to check your one.
So now I want to see how he's added his image, and I think actually, now that I think about it, it might be back over here with previous testing in the wrapping up user test, because this is where it gets a little bit more complicated, where you're not doing your assertions, but this is where he adds in the avatar that he's using for his particular use case.
Is the path to the file, and this starts from the root of our project. So for us, that would be tests /.jpg. So that is going to correctly upload that file to the following endpoint, and what meaning that everything went well. Let's go below. Right here, I'll go at first, then we'll focus on adding a.
So here, same thing. So let's just take this off for a second. I doubt this is screwing with anything, but just to be sure, and I'm going to take the async off of the describe. And let's see, we have our bearer. We didn't change anything with that, and we still have access to our user object to this user one object as if it was created here. In our attach, we have the file name in the same way it's supposed to be, and then in our test directory, we're following the same format in terms of the structure. We have test. Then it's fixtures, right? And I'm just checking the spelling here to make sure it matches. And then we have all of this for the file. So I think that's all we're supposed to have. I don't think we were supposed to have this send thing here. So let me just go ahead and take that off and then save and see. So we're still getting this error. Right hand side of instance of is not callable. Not too sure what's happening there. I wonder. I was thinking initially I would have to have something to supplement for Molter, but I don't believe that's the case here. And then the authorization is correct. So let's go and see if we can just dig into what I have and just find any kind of error. So this is a post and it's on the correct extension. We're getting authorized, but it seems like it's having a problem with this request that we put in here. This request that we put in here is super test. We require the app, and we have our user as expected. So let's go and just look here. Cannot access request before initialization. So, oh, I see. Mistake here. I put in request instead of require. So I believe we have a fail, but it's different now. And here we go. Here we have a duplicate, which is nice. That means we're getting closed. We're getting close, I should say. But I see. So these tests running concurrently are now having a bit of a problem because we're creating our second user here. Oh, wait. So in post, it's running to the duplicate key on the users. And yeah, so that's what's happening. So let me just hit Control C, CLS, and then hit that. I might have to do run in, add another option to make sure that our tests don't run at the same exact time, which is happening here. So let's just make sure we don't do that. Let's say just prevent tests from just run test suites separately, because that's what's happening. By running the test suites at the same time, if they're using the same data, it's causing some problems. So let's see what we can find. So I'm going to look at the run in band because I believe this is the one that we want to run each test suite separately. And it runs all tests serially in the current process rather than creating a worker pool of child processes that run tests. I don't want just tests suites running at same time. I'm writing sensitizing and running tests. I'm setting up a test database public with users. Some users and tests problem is some of my tests rely on the test of other tests in this application using it. So my grouping endpoint suite needs I don't want this. I want them to be in parallel. I want them to run serially. So let me just type run just test suites serial. I did not spell that right at all. Stack Overflow. Let's check this out. I'm running Just Suite. Just runs tests in parallel by default. Is there a way to make them? Yeah. Run in band. So we do need that. Ennals. So let's go run in band. And I think that's actually what was recommended for us before we got into the setup, because that's
I'll start with
there. So let me go here and just take a look at this. And I just want to confirm my suspicions before I do it. That way I don't have to save time, correcting myself if I'm wrong. I'm just gonna refresh this page. Seems like it's giving us some trouble. And I want to take it back to the beginning.
Case right here for a task specific endpoint, and you'd be right.
So now I'm trying to skip through a bit, but it's making it pretty difficult. The load times are pretty slow.
We can create a constant called task.
So now in here,
so we can test that things like deleting a task or fetching your tasks actually work as expected.
I think this is the package JSON here. And then
of its current location and bring it over to db.js, pasting it of its current location and bring it over to
what's this here?
For generating that user, I'm going to take it, cut it out of its current location.
I see.
WT web. We need.
So this is all the database stuff they separated in.
I'm going to create
that stuff down
out of their current location. We're ready. Is going to database 3. Fix to do test right here. Of course. Now test into for maybe not add a new option onto the jest command alongside of the watch option. This is -run in band. That is capital I, capital B. This is going to run your tests in series, making sure that there's no overlap or chance of conflict. Now, when we change the command, we will need to use Control-C to manually shut down jest. Then we can start it up once again using up and enter, and we're good to go. Now, at this point, we can actually write a test.
So that was really what I wanted to get. Wanted to get that run in band option, so that way our user test and our post test don't run at the same time. Otherwise, as you saw, we ran into a problem. So let's trigger that test run, and this time we're getting a problem, but now we're getting a slightly different error. So this bad request means that something went wrong, more than likely here. So now let's just kind of see what's going on there. I wonder what happens if I do a slash test. I wonder if that changes anything. So the only thing I can think of here is that, let's see what our code says. So we do const post is new post request.body, and then we go in here, and that's where we start to look to see what's going on. I probably should move this inside of the try catch block. It doesn't really hurt anything here. I mean, it doesn't hurt by being outside, but you know, who knows what can go wrong, right? So I just want to have that in there as well. So what else? So it didn't throw 409. So it was either the, not this, because if it was a existing post, we would have that 409. So I'm thinking it was this cover image coming from the request.file. So reason being, yeah, I think that was it, because, and then trying to get the buffer from that. So either this location was wrong, or something else went wrong there when it tried to save the post. So I'm just going to save it again and then hit F to run only the failed test again. No failed test found. Okay, so let's just press F to quit. Okay. Wonder if we can get a little bit more information on this. Let me just press W. So /posts set authorization. Let me double check that. Make sure I didn't screw up with the spelling on that. Well, actually, I know I copied it, so it should be right. Yeah, set authorization. We are running in a band. What else? I'm gonna just take this out, see what happens, and if we still get a 400, then I know it was something else. And we are still getting a 400. So here, router/posts. We have async. We have let me try send. Let me do .send. I do think that is a problem here. That is interesting. What if I just uncomment, delete that whole line, and then send it? Oh, not what I wanted to do. Send that off. So we're still getting a problem. And when you look at the, where is it? Super test. Attach. I thought I saw something that said file. So this does bother me here. But it doesn't seem like this is the only problem that we're getting. So let's say, oh, I think I know what it is. We never picked the data that we wanted to send. So we never sent our required information. I got so hooked up on sending out the post that I never sent out the information that we were supposed to send. So in this post, we're also supposed to send post 1, right? And that's why it failed, because we had some required fields in here. And without those required fields, it should fail. Let me just take this part out. Yeah, because otherwise I can't think of anything else. And I don't really have a lot to go off of with these error messages. Oh, so now we have a conflict. So that's great, but it seems like we're not hitting our post isn't deleting. Excuse me. So let me Control C, CLS, and then run this thing again, because we shouldn't be getting a conflict. Let's go over to our user and check this out. Oh, I didn't mean to go to user model. I want the user router. Reason being is, you'll see in a second. So reason being is here, right? We check to see if that user existed using just the information here. Then we created it. Here, we're doing that first. And I wonder if that's the problem. Technically, even though it's not saved, I think that might be a problem. So I'm going to just go here, change that over there, and then see what happens over in the test. So now we're still getting that 409 conflict. And oh, I see. Genius. So I literally just created our our post one that's in a database, and then I'm trying to send that information off again. So I'm just going to create, so now that I already have the object set up, I can just go ahead and grab this. And the only thing I'll do is I'll just change the name. So this will be testing 1, and that'll be testing 2. So this will be, doesn't matter. And then I'll just save it and rerun that. So now hopefully we'll get our success. So now the error is 400 bad request. So either some information in here is invalid, not too sure really. So now the only thing I can do here is just go back to my user test and just look at how I used that send. Yeah, it seems like I did it properly. .send. I don't have a .expect on here, so I'm kind of curious to how this actually worked, right? Should be .expect. I guess because it's, I don't know. Sometimes I get away with some stuff. Save both of these. So we're still failing, and now we're getting a 400. So again, that 400 has to be something going on over here. And just, well, I don't know how else I can be sure. Let's go, let me change the category. Well, I'll keep the same category, and then I'll just put a 4 here. A test in using a just test. So slight changes to it because now I'm not getting much feedback. So what I'm going to do is go over to our code, and I'm just going to drop in some console logs to try to see where the code times out. So is it like before we save the post, or is it happening after? Well, is it before we set up the whole, our new post, or is it happening after our post? And then when you do the whole new post or new user, you shouldn't have to await anything. So I'm not missing anything there. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that, and just now I can look for the console logs. And it seems, as you can see here, that we get our error before we try to save. And then the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Postman, and I'm just going to send this off. And I know why that didn't work. So now, another reason is I need to create another terminal. npm run dev. And then now go into Postman and try this. So in Postman, we're getting unauthorized. So, excuse me. We're going to log in, and then we're going to, oh, I get it now. I created our user. Oh, okay. So when I had my user in the database, they were all already logged in because they had a valid token. So now if I go to create a post, let's see what we get. So we don't get any issues here. We're able to create that. And I'm almost certain it's because of this um, attachment. But in this case, I don't even have the attachment on here. So I'm really I'm a bit stuck here. Let's look at the error messages, right? So let's go ahead and stop this. Hit yes. And then we'll drop this one. And then let's just go back to the terminal here. So this one is having an issue with sending off the information because it logs right here right after we get past the check for an existing post, and then it fails somewhere in here. And I don't know why. So I wonder if the timing is playing a factor here. Dot post dot send dot attach. So let's go back to our post. I think that might be it because when did we start setting stuff? Oh, dot set, right? So we set everything beforehand. So we set, then we sent. We set, then we send. Set, then send. So we have our request. Put in our app dot posts plural, and then we set our authorization. Get rid of the token. Make sure there's no extra space in here. And then we send that off with the information that we specified. And we have all of these information that we said we needed, which is the title, the category, the content, the description, and the status. And the date create is automatic, so we don't have to set that ourselves. So that should be all valid data. So if I save and it runs, we're still getting that request. So it still seems like we're having issues saving. I don't see any other asynchronous process that I need to be waiting for. And we know we're not getting that 409 anymore. So this one seems to be tricky, but I'm almost certain it's something to do with the router setup that I have. So I think that I'm actually missing something. So let's see, and it might be this part here, because actually I think that's exactly what it is. Molter is in here and it's looking for the file and it's not in here. So I'm gonna do dot attach, and I'm just gonna put file, and put cover image. And I'm not sure if I need to put this before or after this, to be honest. So I'll try it after, just to save it. And then this will be test slash. Let's see what happens if I just go and reveal in the file explorer. And then I just want to copy the path. Actually, I'm gonna hit this. I'm gonna hit rename. I'm just gonna hit C just to make sure I can rule out typos. And I'm gonna go here, hit rename, and I'm gonna grab everything. Control C, and hit / Control V, and this is another way I can just rule out the typos. And there are no semicolons on the end of these things, so let's send that off. And now we're getting some errors here. So now it can't mix in the send and attach. So that is actually a problem. So I think that's why they say field. So let's try field instead of send. I think that might create more problems though. Oh no, there we go. So now we have it. So it was just the way we were sending in our data that was screwed up, because it was expecting us to send in a file and we didn't have that information done. And I also want to think that the HTTP header was a little different. So when it got down here, it was screwed up. But we just made it past it. So there we go. So now that we're in here, the next thing we need to do is actually something that we've already done. We want to go ahead and try to create a duplicate. And we want to say should not create a duplicate post. And we're going to leave everything the same. And the only thing we're going to change is on the field, we're just going to put user 1. Not user 1, I'm sorry, post 1. Because that post already exists. And I'm going to leave everything, I'm going to leave all the rest the same. And rerun that. And there we go. Right? So, oh, nope, that's not where we go. So we got a conflict, so that's what we're actually expecting. So let me just change that to be what it's supposed to be, and then that'll work. And there it is. Next, what else do we say can go wrong here? Well, I'm almost confident now that I should be able to do the same thing again without the file, and it should work now. And then, again, I think it was fields instead of send, because of the fact that just the way we have our code written with Multer as a third party, it was expecting, we just had to manipulate the way the things were sent, because it is a where is this? Multi-file uploads, multi-part file uploads. So there it is. Because we're sending data, we're sending the fields, and we're sending the we're sending the attachment. So if I send this off, this should also work. Without a cover image. And if I save that, we should get a 201. And we're failing here. And I think it's because the way I have it written, it's expecting that image. Like if I take this off and send this, I stop the server. Let me do this really quick. npm run dev. There we go. So we're getting a conflict. So let's go ahead and delete many posts. And I'm going to just send an empty body. I should delete. Oh, didn't delete anything. So get all posts. And I just need to find the ID. There we go. And paste that ID in there and send that off. And we deleted it. So now I can create a post and took the cover image off and send that. The hell? Get all posts. Oh, it still exists. Interesting. Oh, the ID is different this time. So now let me go to delete many posts. $200, get all posts. Nothing. Cool. So then I go to create post. Send it off. 400. if you put the image on there, it's good. So actually now I have to look into this because I should have caught that before, but now you can see the kind of one of the benefits with writing tests. You can catch things before they get out of hand. Um, Now I don't know how to kind of cover this because I want to say if I don't put an image in there, how are we going to? Oh, I see. So it's failing because we're forcing it here. So the only thing I have to do is just say if and drop this in here. We'll say if request.file, right? So if there's a file, you'll add it. If there's a file, add it. Otherwise, just skip that part. So if I save that, and let's go and delete this. So let me grab the ID, and delete many posts, and then we'll send that off. There we go. And then I'm gonna go to create a post, and we still have to cover image gone. Send it, and there we go. So that was the problem. We didn't set our code up to work around not having the file uploaded. CLS. I'm gonna close that one and then go back to our test, and you see it automatically passed. So that's good. So it was a good thing that I did test for that because we would have been, stuff would have been broken. We would have never known. And that's kind of like where you want to look at your test cases. You want to look at when you're creating these test cases, you want to look at what can go wrong with your code. And you shouldn't have to modify your code for tests. Your code should fit your test should fit your code. If you find yourself manipulating your code for your tests, then it can be one of two things, right? Either you're testing something that may not be possible within your code, or there's an error in your code, and there's no you kind of know based off the test case, and you like as you see with me, exposing errors in my code, and then I can say, oh, okay, let me go fix that, and then you fix it, and that's that. Usually, most of these are usually found in manual testing, but as you add new stuff in and change stuff out, you kind of get a little. You might miss a few things. Nobody's perfect. So yeah, it's just kind of one of the benefits I like about having tests. So I think that was it actually. So now we tested uploading without a file. We save and then we send it back. We can test, and then the only thing that we can probably do here is let's say, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that would break our code, but I believe that I believe that Mongoose automatically ignores fields. Mongoose ignores, yep, not in schema. So you can do that. So here's my schema. Boom. So we can have things right here that makes it strict, so that way you can force it to throw an error if things don't match. So meaning, let's say we were creating a new post, and we added in a field that didn't exist. It would throw an error. That's beneficial. That prevents people from putting stuff in that you don't need, and that'll also save us from doing things like what we do in our patch, where we actually make sure that it's a valid upload. So let's see. Mongoose will strip out. The strip option does apply to updates. So here we go here. So it doesn't apply in filtering. So we'll not filter out not in schema. But it does apply to the update. So if you try to strip out, Mongoose will strip out not in schema from the update if strict is not false. Mongoose has separate strict query option to go strict mode. Huh, that's interesting. So let me do. We can just do a little bit of research on that on our own. We can just say strict query because somebody else might explain it a little bit better than the documentation. Mongoose. Let's see here. They're expecting something. I'll look at it later on my own time. I don't want to take up too much time here. So anything else I can't really think of because it automatically ignores extra fields because I can go in here and add a new field. Let's say chicken, and then I just say grease, right? Whatever. And then let's go and first delete the existing post. Server npm run dev, boom, boom, and then let's go back to create post. We have that field on there, we send that up, and it just ignores it and creates it anyway. So that's the behavior we have. So there's no point in really testing testing our, again, we're testing our code, not Mongo's, right? So that's another thing that you want to do. Since it's something that's a Mongo's feature, we don't have to worry about it. Outside of that, I think we're good. I can't think of anything else. Oh yeah, I know. Invalid fields. Should not create a new post with should not create an invalid post. Should not create a new post without required field. So this is very specific. And then we just go async. Oh, like a consistency here. And then we do our await. So now here we can say await, and actually we can just go ahead and copy this. And there's a few more assertions that we could probably make. Again, making sure that things exist in the database, things like that, making sure things don't exist in the database. I can go ahead and throw that in, especially for this one here. You can just say assert, well, expect. So we can say const post equals await post dot find by ID, and then we can just use actually I don't know the post. Let's just use the title. Find, and we'll say title that we created here. And let's go. I think that should be good enough, right? What do I use here? Then use title and categories. Let's use the title and category. There we go. I could have put the unique field on. I didn't want to put unique on either one of these because it's the combination of the both that makes it that makes the post unique. So because of that, I didn't put anything here, and that's why I created the router to work the way it did. So now let's test. Where are we? Oh, here. So now in here, and this is just not consistent, so I just want to fix that. And that's what I kind of want to ESLint for. It can do some formatting for you. For instance, you can convert all of your single quotes to double quotes, or vice versa. And then I can just say expect post. right? Dot to be. So I'm trying to think because I didn't think about this. Remember if I do dot to be truthy? I think that's a function. For some reason I didn't get I don't get those highlighted options on the methods when I on for just. So to be truthy, yeah. And we can look at this and just make sure it exists. When you don't care what a value is and you want to ensure a value is true in a Boolean context, let's try this. To contain, to equal, to match. That's all fine. What I could have did was I could have I could have tried to take the response object and I could have just said response dot body, right? Could have tried to could have done it that way. Real thing is I'm trying to think about how I would make sure that this thing actually existed in the database, because I can't go too specific, otherwise I won't have it. If I give it an ID here, I should be able to track it. But you know, what are we really looking for here? We know that in our database we don't have something with this title, so that's really good enough, right? So we can just go and try this. I don't think it'll work because of, wait, let me shut down this terminal. Oh, I didn't, never stopped it. I think we're fine now. So here, okay, that's something else. So I just wanted to make sure it exists, right? So, and that's all I needed here. So and we can test this by commenting this out and then saving it, and it should fail because this doesn't exist. Right? And there we go. It's not defined. So it just has to have a value, right? What if I just comment, what if I just cut this part out? Well, that would be something completely different. Yeah, that's about it really. So we can create the post, right? And we can just say response. So a few different ways, right? You use the response, we're using the value that's already in there. But you know, that's not what we're looking for. Or the easiest way, without even doing any additional lookups, we can just say expect that let's say, actually we still would have to do a lookup, so this is probably the best way to do that. You just want to make sure it exists, and then we're good to go. And then the rest of the cases, you might want to say, hey, we want to make sure that the length of the post, the posts collection is only one. So you might say expect, and then say expect posts dot, let's see what they have in here. Distinct, creates a query for distinct operation, count documents. If you want to count all documents in a large collection, use. So if you do this, let's just do what's count? Counts number of matching documents, right? So I'm just gonna go to count documents, right? And then we can just say dot to be 1. Let's see what happens. That's definitely not what we wanted. Probably give us a list of all the documents in there. Count. let me do count documents, right? And they'll do a dot value of. Seems like that might be what we're looking for. Dot to be 1. So you're getting the value of the number of documents in there is 1. And then you can do the same here. You know, how do we know it's in there if there's more than 1? Because we know right now there's only 1 post in our database. So because this to be truthy is a little tricky. It just means as long as this has a value. So if you wanted to do something a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I don't know. Just, we can just say here, right? We can say const posts equals this. You can count the documents and get the value of it from that, right? And then you can just say expect posts dot to be 1. So that's how you get our post there. And then over here, we could literally take the same exact thing and just say we're expecting 2 posts here. So you say expect posts dot to be 2. And then we can save that and it should still turn true. It's just, again, it's like when you're writing your test cases, it's very important that you try to figure out exactly what you're trying to test, because you know, there might be other ways to test. You know, if you just want to test something was created, you know, you can test that by, you know, querying your database. If you know how many documents are in there, if there's one additional, then you're good to go. Like if I change this to 1, it's going to fail because there's 2 documents in there, right? If that's, you know, all you need to do, then that's fine. You know, you don't have to make it more complicated than it needs to be. But if you need to check something very specific, like with our user, we needed to make sure that our password was also changed. So that's why we did that. And then when I did some of these things here, this is more so about the sorting, and that's why we had that. So it's all about what you're trying to test. And it's getting pretty late, so I'm gonna go ahead and call this here. We didn't really get to do a lot today just because we had some difficulties, but we did we did learn a few things in terms of, you know, make sure we disconnect from our database, to clear up our terminal, to make sure that we don't have anything leaking. And that's pretty much like a leak. When you stop your process, you kind of exit out that process. And in this case, our process is our test. So, you know, we run our test, we connect to our database, we do all this stuff, we populate it, we delete stuff, and then we stop all operations on it. And, you know, we kind of disconnect from it in terms of having a gateway to manipulate and interact with it. And then we just kind of leave it. So now it's like, okay, your database is still up, it's still running. I guess, you know, it's still using resources. So it kind of creates that leak that, you know, that we see. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to just go ahead and do the, you know, get status stuff to see some of the things we've changed. And you can see here that this is what we've changed. And we've also changed our package.json. We've changed a few other things. And I'm just going to go ahead and add that stuff and then commit it. So when you get commit -m, and then we're going to say began, you say first wave of post router tests, right? And then you just say get push dash you, oh shit, get branch. Ooh, I'm glad I saved myself. So last week when we did our push, we were pushing onto master because we were finished with that branch, and we were comfortable with where we were. Technically, I can push these changes to master because we're writing the tests, and all of our tests are going to live on master. So we're technically not adding any new development. And since all of these tests are passing, I could put this onto the master branch. Um, ooh, okay, so we have everything working here now. So it's a matter of personal preference what you want to do. I'm gonna go ahead and allow it to go into master because it does. Again, it's fitting the criteria in terms of it's working code, it's tested, and it's not new features. So I don't have to worry about anything being messed up. So just be mindful of that. And if you switch branches, make sure you check your branches before you push. And let that go up to master, and there it is. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll be back to the regularly scheduled program tomorrow.